Hi everyone, welcome to Soul Talk with Sonia. I am Sonia, licensed professional counselor. So last week we talked about emotions, making sure that you're emotionally whole, and some questions to ask yourself, making sure that you have dealt with unforgiveness, resentment, anger, bitterness, hate, whatever the strong emotions are. And then we also asked, are you struggling with any unresolved trauma? So now we're going to talk about emotions regarding men. Okay. So there are two major challenges men have to deal with. One is pride, and two is their ego. And I know this because I asked God, why is it hard for men to come to therapy, and why aren't men staying in therapy? Like they'll come for a few sessions. This is my experience. Can't speak for other therapists. They'll come for a few sessions and then they ghost, right? And one is when it gets hard, they leave. And then the other reason I think is, okay, this is getting too deep for me. I'm fleeing. I encourage you to ask questions. So the man is interested in you now or in the near future, you want to know about their history. Of course, we know to ask, what's your relationship like with your mom? What's your relationship like with your dad? If he says, I didn't know my dad, and that's it, you need to ask some more questions. Okay. Has he dealt with issues with his dad? Because then that's rejection that he's dealing with. And you don't want these strong emotions to come into your marriage. So, yes, you need to deal with your stuff, but it's important that he deals with his stuff too. And so, again, if we don't ask questions, we don't get answers. And you want to ask questions before you say, I do. You already, again, it's two human beings coming from two different backgrounds, are going to disagree, have challenges in your marriage. But you don't want this to be a challenge because you hadn't dealt with your stuff and he hasn't dealt with his stuff. So there are a lot of people walking around with rejection, right? So that same scenario, he has issues with his dad, so feeling rejected. Then unforgiveness. Okay. It could also be two, because you want to get a good trauma history. It could be he has struggled with molestation, rape, they have intimacy issues. You need to know that. You don't want to get married and get surprised because you didn't ask questions. Now, it's different if you ask questions and they lied, they didn't tell you. But it's totally different if you didn't ask the questions. So you want to ask these questions. And if he says, I don't want to talk about it right now, that's okay, respect that. But at some point, you need to revisit that. Okay. You both need to be free of any emotional baggage prior to engagement. If you need to postpone your engagement, postpone the wedding until this is straightened out, until both parties are healed, do that. So, with pride, that keeps men from coming to therapy. Their ego keeps them from staying in therapy. And then it can be vice versa, or both, pride and ego, right? And so, what men really need is humility. Let me tell you something, ladies. I want to marry a man that's not humble. Humility gets you far. Pride hinders your growth. And so you do not want to be married to a man that has no humility. Because that's going to stump your growth as a couple. It's going to stump him individually, and it's going to stump you as a couple. Where God's not going to withhold your blessing because you're humble and he's not. He's still going to bless you, but as a couple, as a partnership, that's going to really hinder other relationships that you have. So pride and ego, if you're in a relationship with someone that's prideful, you need to pray away that spirit of pride. You need to really fast for him. So asking those questions. So I'm going to give you some questions to ask. Describe your childhood. What was his childhood like? Has he healed from past relationships? So if he was married or had other relationships, if he has kids, are things good with his children's mother? Do they have any issues? And if so, you need to dissect that. Oh, we just can't get along. Okay, why can't you get along? Is it her? Is it him? Is it both of them? Now, you're not coming in trying to be a mediator, but you want to know, is it him? Because if you all get married, have kids, is this things that she's dealing with, are you going to have to deal with this? You want to know the why. Why is a great question, 3-letter word, but it's a powerful question. That's what you have to ask him. You may start off asking yourself, well, why is this, why is that? And then ask him, why don't you have a good relationship with this person? Does he have friends? And you don't have to have a whole lot of friends, 2 or 3. Because it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So these are some things you want to look at. If he doesn't have friends, you want to know why. Make sure you take him in group settings. So if your church has a single ministry, take him around your family. If you go to a meetup, you want to see how he interacts in groups. Is he short-tempered? Does he have anger issues? That's a huge red flag. Okay. Is he bitter? Does he have resentment, unforgiveness? Is he quick-tempered? Is he jealous? Men get jealous too. Is he jealous of your success? Does he make little slick comments? These are all signs that you need to pay attention to. Now, I've seen wives who, we'll talk about a little bit about mental health, because we're talking about emotions and men, whose husband had mental health issues, okay? And this is what I asked the wife. If he doesn't change, if he doesn't admit that he has a problem, if he doesn't go to therapy, go see a psychiatrist, if he doesn't change because he hasn't done these things, can you stay in the marriage? So if you're courting somebody, okay, and his behaviors hasn't changed, he refuses to go to therapy, he refuses to see a psychiatrist, and you notice some things, can you marry him? Because whatever you see in courtship, dating, wherever you want to call it, it's only going to amplify when you get married. So you want to make sure, ladies, that you're paying attention to all the signs. Men call us detectives. You sure enough better be a detective when you're courting somebody. Okay? And listen to the Holy Spirit and not brushing off stuff. Listen to people that are close to you, that know you, that have your best interests at heart. If they call you and say, hey, I noticed such and such, don't blow it off because you're in love and lust, infatuated, whatever it is. You need to pray about that. So this is where your discernment comes in, the listening comes in, things we've talked about that's preparing you for this moment. These are like building blocks, right? We started talking about discernment, purpose. What's the purpose of this person? The power that you have as women. We talked about courting versus dating. We talked about falling in love with God, having that intimacy with Him, listening, disciplining your mind. Now we're talking about the emotions. You see how this is building up, trying to get you to the place of being a wife. Even if you don't want to be a wife, that's okay too. All of this can help you. Everybody is not purposed to be a wife, and that's okay. And we shouldn't put other women down or look down on them because they don't want to be married, because they don't want to have kids. That's their prerogative. It's their life. That's their path. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I have to mention again, as women, we have to stop being jealous and envious of other women and support one another. And again, there are men that are jealous. Are you seeing signs that he's jealous of you, envious of you? But check yourself to make sure you don't have that in your heart. And then you want to make sure that he's not presenting that to you as well, because you make more money, because you drive a certain car, because you have a house and he doesn't, right? So much to talk about in so little time. So just making sure you're asking the questions of why, paying attention to the signs, running by the Holy Spirit, taking him around people that love you, that can give you insight on him. And it would be great too if you had an accountability partner. We talked about that in courtship. That can, if you have a couple, it could be I don't know about your parents, but an aunt and uncle, cousin, friend that's been married and that's seasonal. They could be possibly your accountability couple. And so men give you insight on other men, because as women we have a blind side on things because we're women, right? Some things you can't see. If you have a really good guy friend or guy cousin or uncle that you're close to, and you have some reservations, talk to them because they can really educate you on men, right? It's a man code, man thing that they have. It's man knowledge that they have that we don't have. So wisdom is the principal thing. You want to make sure you use some wisdom, making sure you're taking your time. I know many of you have been out here on a single journey a long time and you're so ready to be married, but you can't be so impatient that you marry the wrong person. That's the worst thing you can do. One of the worst things you can do is marry the wrong person. And I really want to help you ladies to get it right. So thank you so much for tuning in with Soul Talk with Sonia, and I will see you very soon.